Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Vaneeza Khan and today the topic of our presentation is smart contracts using cryptographic networks. To understand smart contracts, we first need to study cryptographic network. One of the major networks where cryptography is used is blockchain. Blockchains are very popular nowadays. But what is a blockchain? How do they work? What problem do they solve and how can they be used? Like the name indicates, blockchain is a chain of blocks that contain information. This technique was originally described in 1991 by a group of researchers and was originally intended to timestamp documents so that it's not possible to backdate them. In 2009, Satoshi Nakamoto used this technique to create digital cryptocurrency Bitcoin. Blockchain is a distributed ledger that is completely open to anyone. Once data is recorded in a blockchain, it becomes very difficult to change it. Now let's take a closer look at a block. Each block contains some data, hash of the block and hash of the previous block. Data that is stored inside a block depends on the type of blockchain. For example, Bitcoin blockchain stores the details about transaction in here, such as sender, receiver, and amount of coins. Block also has a hash. You can compare a hash to a fingerprint because it is unique, just like a fingerprint. Hash identifies a block and all of its contents. Once a block is created, its hash is being calculated. Changing something inside the block will cause the hash to change. If the fingerprint of the block changes, it no longer stays the same block. Third element inside each block is the hash of the previous block. This technique makes a blockchain so secure. Let's take an example. We have a chain of 3 blocks. As you can see, each block has a hash and hash of the previous block. Block number 3 points to block number 2 and block number 2 points to block number 1. First block is a bit special. It cannot point to the previous block because it's the first one. We call this block the genesis block. Now let's say you have tamper with the second block. This causes the hash of the block to change as well. This will make block 3 and all the following block invalid because they no longer store a valid hash of the previous block. But using the hash, it is not enough to prevent tampering. Computers these days are very fast and can calculate hundreds of thousands of hashes per second. You could effectively tamper with a block and recalculate all the hashes of other blocks to make the blockchain valid again. To mitigate tampering, next step is proof of work. It's a mechanism that slows down the creation of new blocks. In Bitcoin case, it takes about 10 minutes to calculate required proof of work and add a new block to the chain. This mechanism makes it very hard to tamper with the block because if you tamper with one, you need to recalculate the proof of work for all the following blocks. So the security of the blockchain comes from hashing and proof of work mechanism. But there is one more way that the blockchain secure themselves, and that is by being distributed. Instead of using a central entity to manage the chain, blockchains use a peer-to-peer network and everyone is allowed to join. When someone joins this network, he gets a full copy of the blockchain. When someone creates a new block, it is sent to everyone in the network. Each node then verifies the block to make sure that it hasn't been tampered with. If everything checks out, each node adds this block to their own blockchain. All the nodes in the network create consensus. They agree about which block is valid and which are not. Blocks that are tampered with will be rejected by other nodes in the network. Now, Umer Farouk will tell you about how smart contract works. Thank you.
Smart contracts. smart contracts, this word is quite a buzzword for the past couple of years, and we now what the question arises is that what are smart contracts? Interestingly, they are just simple like contracts, but they are digital contracts. And in terms of blockchain, if we see it, they are a tiny computer programs that are stored inside a blockchain. And now we will see how smart contract actually works. In order to understand the smart contract, we will compare it with the existing online platform like Kickstarter. You may have learned about that, which is online third-party crowdfunding platform where the product team create their project and set their funding goals, uh, and get their fund from there. When so if we see there is a figure in front of you, where the four supporters on the left and a product team on the right, and between them is a Kickstarter, which is a third party app, which is crowdfunding app. So what it works like that: product team create a project on the Kickstarter and supporters support them with their funds. All the funds are stored on the Kickstarter, where when the project, or you can say project team or the product team funds, goal funds, or you can say conditions are met, the funds are automatically transferred to the product team. Or you can say is in other terms, supporters want their money transferred to product team when the conditions or goals set by the product team are met. Or yes, voters want their money back or want a refund if the conditions are not met. In this case, it's obvious that both supporters and product team have to uh, trust the Kickstarter for their funds. Now, smart contract will create a similar, more secure system without a third party being involved at all. So it basically smart contract, you can let's see this system. There are four supporters and a project team has created a project, a contract, and four supporters have sent their funds to the smart contracts collect the money. If the project gets fully funded, smart contract automatically passes the money to the creator. And if we see and if the project fails to meet the goal, the money automatically goes back to the supporter. And because smart contracts are stored on a blockchain, everything is completely distributed. With this technique, no one is in control of money. Like, and one plus point I would want to mention here, you can see there is no third party platform like Kickstarter is involved in this all transactions. So why should we trust a smart contract? Smart contracts are stored on a blockchain, so they inherit some interesting properties like immutable and distributed. For immutable, you can say once a contract is created, it can never be changed again. No one can tamper with the code of your account. If you can say you can too, not you too can tamper that program once it is run. And secondly, it is distributed. The output of the contract is validated by everyone on the network. Single person cannot force the contract to release the funds because the other people on the network will support that time the market is invalid. Like if you, it is quite obvious. If you say the see the system below, there are three supporters and three person is a network in a smart contract, and if a person is say a goal is met, a fourth person came in and says the goal is met, give me the money. But question arises that all three of them does not uh, see the attempt as valid. They do not tend to see that do not recognize this attempt, so they mark it as an invalid. So if you see quite clearly, it is that not no single person is in control of all the money. All four of them are in control of the money, and it is quietly distributed. Not a single, no one among them can easily say that if the money goes, I'm at, I need the money. All four of them have to be agree on this statement to get the money and to transfer the funds. So there are other application of the smart contract too. And if we see bank uses it to use loans or to offer automatic payments, and insurance companies use it to process certain claims, and postal company could use it for the payment on delivery. Now, today, the biggest blockchain that's for the smart contract is Ethereum. Bitcoins and other cryptocurrency also you can say sport the smart contracts, but they are a lot limited as compared to Ethereum. And Ethereum is programmed by the special programming language called Solidity, and it uses syntax which resembles a JavaScript. Now, with this, we marks the end of our presentation. And from the start, we see how actually a blockchain network works, how they are secured, how their links are cryptographically connected to each other and are secured. And now, in the previous system, how we see that how the smart contract just kick out the third party and created a more secure and more reliable system for transferring of funds. So this marks the end of our presentations. So if you have